Welcome to Jim White's webinar series. Jim has been investing, coaching executives, and turning around companies for over 30 years. Now your host, Dr. Jim White.
Hello, this is Jim White. It is July the 21st, 2020, and welcome to part 11 of my Critical Thinking series. Part 11. It's been a wonderful journey for me, and I want to welcome everyone that's joined us tonight, that's live, and thank you for sharing some time with us. And we're going to do everything we can to keep it within 30 minutes is our goal, but we got a lot of content to review this evening. And I want to say to everybody that's been following us for the last 10 weeks, thank you so much. And next week, I should say, excuse me, if I can talk this evening, we will do a session 12, and we will do a wrap up. And what we're going to do is encourage you to send in some questions, and I'd like to do a Q&A as much as I can next week. So you can be thinking about that. So once again, welcome, and let's do a quick review before we get into this week's session. And last week we discussed four main points last week, remember? And they were how to retain your skills, the new skills of critical thinking. We did a deep dive into that. And we also discussed how to reflect and learn from the mistakes. And my goodness, I don't think there's a better time to reinforce that again this week. Learn from our mistakes. And I think when we come out on the other side of this COVID-19 and we do a look back for years to come, and we do a look back, I think we're going to say there was no critical thinking, or there was a lack of critical thinking that was in play, especially from our politicians on both sides of the aisle. And it's a very concerning thing for me to see just a lack of leadership from all sides of the aisle. We also talked about the importance of asking the rich questions, and I think that asking questions is a huge skill, and that was one of the things we discussed last week. And we also talked about the need and how to move to mastery, if you will, right? And that's the critical thinking, right? So those issues are extremely important, Now, as I said, our session is coming to a close, and I hope you have enjoyed the journey so far. And last week I left you with some homework, and again, I want to thank you for participating with me in our live virtual meeting room, if you will. So I want to thank you for that and working with on it. But I left you with to create an action plan, and the action plan that would be your tool, your progress in days and weeks to come, whatever that action plan be. Your action plan may be setting down and doing some critical thinking about your career. Maybe an action plan that's you're setting down, and maybe it's health, or any type of health plan, if you will. Maybe an action plan is geared around family. Action plan is geared about your personal finances. All of these things require critical thinking skills, and that's what I hope I've been able to give you some tools for the past 10 weeks that's going to help you to continue to grow in your personal and your professional life. I really hope that is the case. So what we're going to do, let's just jump right into it. But like I said, I always want to thank you for giving me some latitude from week to week to share my concerns about the lack of the critical thinking and the leadership during this awful time that we're living in. And once again, vote, right? So, and as we know, people are really just really struggling during this time. As I was thinking about this evening session, I jotted down some words of wisdom, and Allison King. You may not know who they are, and I'm not going to dig into that. So that's the reason we got the magic Google, right? That magic tool. And always said, good questions are good thinkers. I love that. I've always loved that quote. Good questioners are good thinkers. So words are wise. And then another one from another quote that I really enjoy is from Henry Ward Beecher. And he says, all words are pegs to hang ideas on. So I love that visual. But now you can tell I'm a visual guy. Word pictures. So I think about that. Words are pegs to hang ideas on. Words are so important. I love words. They're so important. Then another one from Rudolf Ehrenheim. I think I pronounced his name correctly. If I don't beat me up too bad. But he says, all perceiving is also thinking. All perception, all perceiving is also thinking. All reasoning is also intuition. All observation is also invention. And I just love that. And I know that's a tongue twister to a degree. So once again, all perceiving is also thinking. All reasoning is also intuition. All observation is also invention. So I love those words because words are powerful. Being able to use the words and to be able to tie the right words together, especially when you're asking questions and formulating questions. And I love the fact good questioners are good thinkers, right? And that is a tool that you can use when you're practice. Now, what we're going to do over the next 20 minutes or so, and if it takes that long, I just want to do a review. I'm going to do some high level, just bullet reviews of lessons learned, okay? Of lessons learned. And I thought that would be a good way to start putting some pieces together. And I'm just going to go to those lessons learned. And then, like I said, next week, as we wrap up, we will take questions and dig in and give a couple of case studies and check in on your action plan. And then we'll wrap up for this series. And as I said, we're going to take a couple of weeks and prepare for our book launch, and next big thing in politics, which we're going to launch on September the 9th, 2020. And appreciate your support in that particular endeavor as well. So let's take a look. Lessons learned. Critical thinking has many components, you know that now, that opens minds. Okay? Critical components that open minds to basic learning. Critical thinking has many components and that open minds, right? We also learned that nonlinear thinking helps critical thinkers to step out of their comfort zone and be adaptable. We learned that as well, that nonlinear thinking helps critical thinkers. Nonlinear thinking helps critical thinkers to step out of their comfort zone and being adaptable. Now, here goes my favorite word again, big deal, right? Big deal. That's a big deal. Think about that. Nonlinear thinking helps critical thinkers to step out of their comfort zone and be adaptable. Be adaptable. We got to adapt. I've never seen such opportunities as I see today in this unfortunate pandemic. And unfortunately, the United States, we seem to be behind the curve on it a little bit, but we are a resilient nation, and I know that we're going to get ahead of it. I have faith that we will. But man, the way we're leading this thing is just disturbs me a little bit. So another thing, lessons learned during the past 10 weeks, logical thinking is a systematic process that helps us draw conclusions. So wouldn't it be nice to be able to see and to read from our leaders that we actually have some logical thinking, and to know that logical thinking is a systematic process that helps us draw conclusions. Systematic process that helps us draw conclusions. And remember back in session 7, I think it was, we talked about biases, and that could be into careful how we get sucked into that black vortex of having biases. And we also learned that critical thinkers require many characteristics to be effective. Now I'm going to take a little time on that and do a recap. Critical thinkers require many characteristics to be effective. Now, these characteristics include qualities such as curiosity. Now, I want to remind you that on our blog, after each session, we got some talented people that takes all of my words and turn them into magic for you to use. And you can go back and you can print all of those off. You can put them in a 3-ring binder and follow along. I'd encourage you to do that. That's how I learned. I got visual. So the characteristics, these characteristics includes qualities such as being curious, right? Qualities such as being humble, humility, being disciplined, being objective, self-awareness. Now that's another, self-awareness. In this COVID period, self-awareness is a big deal. I don't know about you, but I'm doing everything that I possibly can to follow social distancing. I'm doing everything that I can, and I am doing it, and social distancing. And my wife and I went to a farmer's market Saturday, and I was just amazed how people, it seemed like that they didn't understand the awareness of space awareness, right? So this self-awareness goes in many different ways, many aspects of self-awareness and active listening, right? Now, active listening, and we didn't talk much about what I'm about to say in the previous sessions, but active listening also incorporates all the senses, okay? So the senses is another thing that, I mean, you got these radars, right? We are a perfectly designed human being for the most part. And even with our flaws that we may have, every human being has all of their uniquenesses, right? And the senses is one of the senses, the 5 senses, the smell, the taste, and all of the senses helps go a long way of being self-aware and also active listening. It goes a long way. Now, we also learn methods, how methods of critical thinkers use to evaluate information. Said another way, how critical thinkers use information to evaluate and asking clarifying questions. So once again, let me just sum it up this way. Critical thinkers use information to ask clarifying questions. And you remember we introduced the SWOT analysis too. The SWOT analysis is a big deal. Like I said, it's very therapeutic. I know it is for me, and I encourage you to try it if you haven't done it. Take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, write it down, do 4 quadrants, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can do that for that and do it all the time. And where I find in our coaching in past years, our mentoring, our workshops, our speaking, and all the work that we've done over the years, that most people had a hard time writing down all their great strengths, right? And then being very objective when you're doing the SWOT of writing down and looking yourself in the eye and looking at the Achilles heels that you may have, and being very straight. This is what I'm not so good at. This is what I need to work on. This is what I need to focus on, because regardless of where you are in your career, you're still on this journey of mastery. The mastery may not be your career. Maybe you've already mastered that, but it could be a spiritual journey of mastery. It could be a relationship journey of mastery. So always doing SWOT analysis and critical thinking of self, that keeps you young, that keeps you healthy, that keeps you moving, that keeps us engaged, it keeps the brain moving in a very positive way. So I do the strengths, I do the weakness, I look at opportunity. So once again, this critical thinking, these critical thinking tools and these lessons learned falls under that SWOT, under the O of opportunity. The opportunity for you to take this information, for you to practice this information, for you to use these tools. And I've done everything that I possibly could to condense it, to give you content in such a way that you didn't need a what am I trying to say, a dictionary to really look up the words. I try to keep them simple. I try to keep the approach simple, but not to underestimate the power of the content. But I want to be able to present it in such a way that we can all hear the message, right? Active listen. So when I'm doing the SWOT, my strength, my weakness, and my opportunity, right? Now look at my threats. Man, that's a great thing. So, and I'm talking to people, and they're people, I should say, I've been talking to people who've been using this SWOT in a very positive way of reset, and they've shared with me, Jim, I have the strength, I have the weakness, I'm doing the opportunities, and I'm having a hard time seeing the opportunities right now. I'm having a hard time seeing opportunities for growth for myself. I'm seeing a hard time. I see that my kids are not going to be able to go back to school, especially kindergarten kids, especially. And how do we explain to them what's going on? And I think that's an area that we as a nation and as our leaders are not really taking to the effect. The long-term effect of this COVID-19 pandemic on the people that maybe starting kindergarten and first grade and second grade and third grade. And it's very challenging for the parents to be the teacher in that environment. But yet that's what we're asking them to do, right? Yes, that's an opportunity on SWOT, under the SWOT. Now I go to the next piece in my SWOT, SWOT, the T. The T aspect is threats, right? So a threat would be, what's threat? The threat would be that we don't know when the end is in sight for this COVID-19. The threat is if we continue to have our American citizens to pass away as a result of this nasty virus, and we don't learn from it. So that's a threat, right? And I know that we have some very talented, bright people that's working day and night, 7 days a week, to trying to solve this problem, but it's still a threat, right? And we've got to look at ourselves and we've got to call it what it is. So that's the reason the SWOT exercise is really critical for each and every one of us. And as we look under the T, under the SWOT analysis, threats. Threat is to the economy. A threat is to our political system. A threat to people that are being careless and not following the protocols. We had a heartbreaking story that we shared with a colleague recently, and I won't go into all the details, but I'll see if I can highlight it because it falls strictly under the threat. The story went like this. We had a family member, the family member's husband tested positive with COVID-19. Come to find out that the co-worker had COVID-19. The co-worker knew that they had COVID-19, yet they went ahead and went to work and affected like that. Well, the co-worker got COVID-19 because they decided to go party, right? They got COVID-19 because they decided to go party. And they came to work knowing that they were positive for COVID-19. That is so irresponsible. So therefore, his coworker, friend of my colleague, contracted COVID-19. His wife contracted COVID-19, and I think they got a 3-year-old or 3-month-old, very small child. So those are threats, and those are things that we have got to help each other on. And this critical thinking, it could not be more important right now to be able to say, we've got to think critically And we've got to be aware. We got to be self-aware. We got to ask the right questions. We have got to make sure that we are protecting ourselves. We're protecting our family. We're protecting our employees. We're protecting our business. And it's just a time of required leadership. So this SWOT analysis is a big deal, right? Big deal. And use it as such, right? Use it. Get a pad and a pen and write it and do all this and set and play with it. All the things about it. It's about you and your life and your career and your family. It's really important. Critical thinking has so many benefits, and we've been talking about just one element of a tool that I've shared with you in the SWOT. And like I said, the benefits are just the list goes on and on and on. It's such as improving how to be persuasive, right? The skills that you develop in being persuasive, your communication skills, the problem solving skills. I think we spend a lot of time on problem solving. I gave you a lot of different tools how to solve problems and increasing our emotional intelligence, right? I would like to sometime maybe just dig deeper down on this emotional intelligence side, right? So all of these things are huge benefits, right? Benefits of learning this critical thinking skill. Now, I also realize that critical thinking may require, now this is where it really gets good. Critical thinking may require an individual to change his or her perspective to assess new information. So critical thinking, once you do the critical thinking, once you work on the SWOT analysis, once you start working on your action plan, and you do take the time to do this, and you take it serious, it's going to require some individual change, right? We're going to have to be able to change and being open to that change. Now, another lessons learned in this whole process in the past 10 weeks is, like I said, is the problem solving skills and critical thinking. It involves identifying the inconsistencies. Remember, we talked about that. Identifying inconsistencies. Once again, here I go, asking the right questions, asking the question, not necessarily the right question, just asking questions. And once you get good at asking questions, you know that you're becoming a good thinker. That's going to get all the brain synapses just firing on all cylinders, being able to think about the questions asked, and trusting your instincts. Trusting your instincts. That's another big thing. And I will kind of put that under the senses category as far as trusting your instincts, right? And taking the time to evaluate the possible solutions, right? Once you do that, taking the time to evaluate your possible solution. Now, critical thinking is a lifelong process. You see my eyes jump there. I'm looking at the calendar. I'm going to start wrapping up here. Giving a lot of, all we talk about tonight is lessons learned. Highlight, bullets, lessons learned. Critical thinking is a lifelong process. To retain the critical thinking skills, we've talked about that. Here we go. Individuals must practice. Practice. If you don't practice, if you don't study, you're not going to move forward. It requires practice. Practice critical thinking. Continue to ask questions and learn from mistakes. I think I mentioned last week, one of the things that really challenges me at this time, and like I think I've also mentioned that I'm 71 years old, going on 28, if you will, or at least that's my mind. And what really challenged me at this stage of my career, and my wife shared this term with me the other day, where a friend of hers said they're in the fall of their life, right? I go, ooh, fall of the life. Well, that means just one more season, right? Not sure I like that, but anyway, I get it. Was to be able to learn and have all the experiences, and to be able to have the opportunity with all of the experiences and all the training, is to be able to share this information with you in a way that I hope is presented straight up, with no biases, just given the world. If I had a wish, I would be able to wish that I could be talking to hundreds of millions of people all around the globe, for us to be doing critical thinking together. Can you imagine how powerful it would be if we could get everybody to think about critical thinking together, and how we could start to get, cutting away at the biases versus being able to stoke all of the, I was going to use another word, bad information. I put it that way and let it go. So I just wanted to highlight the lessons learned, and just want to say to you again, please work on your action plan. Like I said, once again, an action plan could be working on your career, or action plan for your business, the action plan for your health, action plan for your relationships, the action plan for your spiritual journey. All of those things require an action. If you don't put it down, if you don't have the end in mind, and if you don't have a plan, any direction will get you to where, but it may not get you to where you want to go. So I encourage you, take some time, sit down and put an action plan together. Take some time, and I've said it 4 times, and you're going to say, Jim, I get it. I know you're going to say that. And to be able to put together a SWOT analysis, right, and to be able to call it the way it is. So that is it for today. A lot of information. Like I said, what I wanted to primarily accomplish this evening was just to do a lessons learned recap, high-level bullet lessons learned, talk about the importance of an action plan, talk about the importance and the benefits of critical thinking, and talk about the benefits of using the SWOT analysis. And again, just to remind you, practice. The more we do it, the better we're going to get. And I get some notes from different people from different ways saying, Jesus, critical thinking is logical. Yeah, it is. But you know what? Unfortunately, not many of us do it that well. So hopefully, if we will take some of these tools and we practice, we'll get better at it. What could be better if we can improve our communication? Let me tell you, I blow it a lot. I have high expectations for staff. I have higher expectations for myself. I have higher expectations, and I just don't want us to settle. I don't want anybody to settle. And I see that way too often these days, that we're settling. And I encourage you, please don't do that. Dig deep and continue to practice these skills. And we will see you next week. We will come back next week, and week 12, session 12, and we'll do a wrap up. And please send in your questions. You send them to the website. Send any question. I'll do everything that I possibly can to address any question you may have. Okay. So next week is going to be the finals reset, and I'm going to say again, thank you. I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. I want to thank you for your participation, and I want to thank you for trusting in the message and for giving me the opportunity to visit with you each and every week. So until next time, be safe, put on the mask, be aware of your social distancing, have all the PPP. Until next week, be safe. Good evening.
Thank you for your participation and interest in Jim White's webinar series. To stay in touch with Jim, go to www.authorjimwhite.com.